Alrighty, welcome back. We're back at it. As you can see, the car is painted and it looks absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous, Jolene is gorgeous. I mean, gorgeous. The car is not painted, obviously. I have been working on it though. I really have. And the issue with it is that I will not paint it until I'm ready. And I am not ready. I'm sanding and I'm going for it, but I still am not ready. There's so many places that have to be touched up and made look right before I throw some paint on it. I know that the customer and my queen Jolene, they want them painted. Yes, they do. But in actual fact, it takes the time to paint it or to get it right before you do paint it. And I am going over it, I am blocking it, and I'm giving it, what I can do as quick as I can. Basically, what I'm actually doing is I'm going around and making sure and trying to get all the pinholes and get everything blocked out right. So when I put the next coat of primer on, because there is going to be more primer put on this car, because there's filler showing, I am blocking it with an 80 grit. I usually go 40, 80 prime, and this time right now I'm on the 80 grit. And the reason I'm using the 80 grit on the primer is because I find, I've probably explained it a million times, but I'm going to explain it one more time for the people that are new or ask, what the hell is he doing, 80 grit on primer? What happens is with the 80 grit on the primer, I find that I'm able to straighten out any places that are not that desirable. And what I mean by that, the whole car was done with a DA or an 8-inch DA. I use electric feather edge or DA like that. As if we can recall, when I did the fender skirts on this last, I did it with that 8-inch DA. I did it all with that, and then I ground it and cut it off and primed it, and that was it. 80 grit it with a DA, and that was it. Well, now I'm into the stages where I am trying to make it right. With the 80 grit on the block, I'm able to find them places like that are high and places that need to be fixed. With the 80 grit, as you can see on the front fender here, it's cutting through the primer and it's giving me something that I can say that I'm ready to put some more primer on it so it feels right. I'm willing to go down to the filler because I want to take off all I can, but yet still have it right, if that makes sense. It does to me. I want to take all I can off, but still have it right. So where I'm at right at the present moment now is I've got the fender skirt off, and I want that gap right. I gotta have the gap right. I can't have it. You can, and it might be a little, if you want to pick at it really close, it might be a little off here somewhere, but I want that gap right. I want the door gap right. I want the fender skirt gap right. I want it sort of right. If we come on this side, so I'm using the 80 grit to straighten. If I 220 it, I find it's hard to really get something nice and straight when you 220 it. And I'm gonna tell you this. If you've got some body fill and it's not straight, go back to a coarse grit, a 40 or an 80, and straighten it out. You can get it straight with that paper that cuts. You can get it straight. If you go up into the 180s and the 220s and the 320s and start trying to rub it over your filler, you are going to have a mess after a while. It'll polish it up, smooth, yes it will, but you'll have a sort of a wavy mess. In the end, we're going to have to use the 220, the 400. If we want it to go to base clear, we have to go 6 and maybe 800. But right now, I'm trying to make sure that everything is looking good. As I'm going around the fender skirt, I still got a little fixing to do here. You can see how it's tight there. It's not tight and right. You can see when you come back here on this fender skirt on this side, this one's a little bit thicker than the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit off this and add a little bit to the car to make it right. And put a little filler on the end of that and close that gap up. So that one's getting close. But what I have done on the other side, I'm going to show you what I've done. Just so you know. My queen Jolene, the place is looking like a sandbox. And in all honesty, oh yeah, it's Friday. It's Friday. You know, I'm going to tell you a funny. I'll do this first, and then I'll tell you a funny story. When it comes to like this, I could blow it off. Probably my tape would stick. When the fender skirt is on the other side, you can see that I have tape on the edges, but what I have done, I've put a little filler on each side, and then what happens is you get filler coming down on one side and up on the other, and it's really hard to get a gap sometimes. And when I find you do this, if you take your paper and you slide it in there and you go all the way around like that, and then you bevel it off a little bit, you end up messing that gap up again. It's just a headache. I would never take a piece of sandpaper and try to dig that out like that. No, I will not. I will take a piece of tape. I've got a nice line on my fender skirt there. Got a nice line there. That's nice and smooth. It's not bad to down to about here. Then it gets a bit wide. Then it's a bit thin. And whatever, it needs the filler sanded off it. But this is what I would do. I would blow on it. I take my tape and I put it on my fender, and I run the tape with the fender skirt so it looks good. So now, when I run my tape along there, when I run my tape, I still got a nice gap going on with my tape, but you can see the filler on that side. You can see it, or I can. Then I run however close I want that. Might want it a little bit closer. I'm going to straighten that out a little bit. So now when I take my fender skirt off, I know what I got to sand off, because it's right there. I've got a nice gap with the tape going on, so I pull the fender skirt. I've got to take the fender skirts off and on, off and on, and off and on. I really have to do that somewhat. But now I know how much to sand off there and not go beyond. If you take and use a pencil or a marker, sometimes you can get confused on, do you take the marker off? Do you take the pencil off? I mean by sanding the filler off. So that's what I generally do. So what I've done on the other side, I've got this side. Now, what I'm saying on this piece right here, this is what I'm going to do when I take this fender skirt. I'm going to leave that piece of tape over there because it tells me exactly what's got to be sanded off. On this side, I'm going to take a little bit off the top of that to make this side the same thickness in the end of the fender skirt as that one over there. And I will do that after I get that one put on, so I can see exactly how, and I should actually put it on. I can put it on the top side or the bottom side, but if I put it on, so if I look at it, if I want it like that thin, that's what I want on the other side. So what I'll do is I'll tape the top side, I'll have it that thin there, then I'll take this piece of tape, run this piece of tape on like this, stay on there. I should blow it off. So I've got that piece, so I know how thick I want it. I don't want to leave that on there because I don't have my line to sand it off. So I just take another piece of tape and I run it on there like that and pull that sucker off. Then I know I got to grind that off. Then I got to add some to the car to make it exactly the same as the other one. They got to, you know, either or, whatever one works the best is what I'm going to do. But that's just a guess on that one there because I've got that one off. It's just a guess. I want to put it on before I guess that, and well, maybe we'll do it together. But this is what I've got done. I've got the fender skirt put on, and this is the hardest part sometimes. This is the details. This is the hardest part sometimes when you have your fender skirt there, which is sitting on the floor, and then I have the wheel opening of the car. How do you know when to stop? Well, I'm saying that I'm going to use the tape to know when to stop. I've got a little bit of filler that I want to put on down here, maybe a little bit more on here. You can see like the filler is hanging down there a little bit, but there's no filler right there. If I don't put no filler on that, when I go to sand that off, I'm going to have something that I'm going to try to sand, and I'll end up not getting it, pulling it off and putting it back on, and I won't get it. So this is the point, this is the issue. I'm going to put more on than I need, but when I sand it off, I'm going to my tape. My tape is my line. I've had the fender skirt on. I probably should have showed that. I just got going with it. It's Friday. I put the tape on the fender skirt where I liked it, and then I took this tape here and I made my line on my fender where I liked it, where it had a nice gap. So that tape there and that tape there are the lines that I want. If I sand the filler to the tape line, I should be fine. If I go past the tape line, I'm going to have too big of a gap. I like doing it this way because if you start, this is just details, if you start taking your sandpaper and run it in through there and trying to get it going, what happens is that sandpaper, if you're not paying attention real close, will lay over and it'll roll the edge over. And it's not that it's a bigger gap, it's just that it'll roll that edge over and it looks like it's a bigger gap, in which it is because it doesn't look right. So what I've done is I took a piece of sandpaper, rubbed it all on there so that filler would stick in there. I put a little extra filler down there. I'm going to sand it off for you. I'm going to put just a little bit more on to make sure I have enough product. That's what I should do, and that's what I'm going to do. And we're going to go for it. And this is the stuff that I have to do before we put some more primer on it, because once I put a coat of primer on it, I'm going to call the body ready for finer sandpaper. The finer sandpaper. When we go to paint this car and I put some more primer on it, I am not going to hit it with an 80 grit. I'm not going to do that. With this one, we'll hit it with a 220, and then we'll work our way up to the 400, and then we'll probably just put a single stage paint on it. I'm going to single stage this car. I don't feel like I'm going to polish this car. I don't think I want to go there. I don't think I want to put in the time. I don't think I want to put in the time and the effort to polish it. I'm thinking what I'll do is I'll hopefully put the time in cleaning it and putting a fantastic paint job on it. And that's basically what I think I'm going to do. Where I'm here in this shop, everything I do, everything I sand, goes on the floor and it's in the shop. It really makes a hard time to paint anything in here after I'm done. It really makes a hard time, and the reason being is because the amount of dirt. So I'm not sure yet, but like I said, I might paint it once, put 3 coats on it, and see how it looks and all that sort of stuff. Let it settle for a while. Make sure try to get the chassis ready and stuff, and then I might come around and put the rivets on the car after it's painted, and then sand it with maybe a 400 and a 600, and then paint it again. Not sure yet completely if you follow that or not, but that's what I'm thinking I might do. Not sure yet. I just do not want to sand the car with the rivets in it. I do not. And that's not what I want to do, not even close. So, I feel like I got a little bit of area here that could use some more filler before I start. And the tape, if the tape is stuck down a little bit, it just holds your filler for you. That's what I like about using the tape. It's really, this stuff can take a long time if you're making gaps, and separates the men from the boys, it does. And sometimes I'm a boy and sometimes I'm a man. Aren't we all, though? Aren't we all? Just gonna put some on that. Just making sure I got enough, that's all. Just gonna sand to the tape. If I do not have enough, well, you know what happens. You come back in and do it again. And then you're disturbing what you've already got done. And it becomes a continuous pattern of shit. And that means going over and mixing up more and doing it again. That's all it means. So I'm putting on more than I need. Always. Sad news yesterday. You know, Elvis's daughter passing. Just, you know, I know, or everybody should know that nobody's making it out alive. And it's just sad. You know, so close to his birthday, you know. Crazy. Just sad. That should all make us act better, shouldn't it? We all know that nobody's making it out alive. We all should be act like. But we forget, and I forget sometimes also. Trying to make sure I get enough for the edge, that's all. Alrighty. I'm going to check the fender skirt. Now I've got the fender skirt done here. This is round rod all the way along the edge, and I welded the face on it. But when you get filling them together and putting them together, it does make a difference when you start doing it and you start putting it on, what it looks like. And generally, it takes what it takes. I just want to look this over. I need a little bit right here. It looks like it's a little bit below the tape. So there's no sense me even sanding. There's tape a little bit low. There's no sense me even sanding that if that filler is below that tape, because I've got an issue already before I even start. So what has to happen is I have to go to the drawing board, and that's back over here at the fill board, and I have to make more fill up put on there. For me to sand that would be foolish. And the reason it would be foolish is because I have not got enough product on it to get where I'm going. Better to have more on than not enough. Like I said, there's no sense me sanding that and going over that if I haven't got the product. And it's just a matter of me going over here, putting some more on. Just takes less time, and then sanding it and doing it again. Just keep putting some on until I get my desired amount. Most of it's going to be sanded off, but I can't make it if I don't have it. If that makes sense. You got to have the product. Doesn't go hard on me. Hopefully I can get this in one shot. What I mean by one shot is sanding it so it fits. If you've ever done, or if you've ever, done what I'm doing here, sometimes this job here can take a long time, is getting the gaps right. It can take longer than straightening out a quarter panel if if you don't go at it with a plan. Straightening a quarter panel out, you just buzz down the side of it. But when you're doing this sort of stuff, you have two panels that are coming together that you want to fit right or look good, and it takes a little bit of time. So what I told Jolene this morning is I'll put a little extra love in it, see, and she'll be happy with me. She said, "You painting that thing today?" Well, probably not. And that's the thing, like, to paint a car, we're making everything, and we've made the fender skirts. We've actually made the fenders put on the car to where they're at. They were Volkswagen fenders, but the openings had to be dealt with with the fender skirts, and we're trying to make it all the same. Now, let's sand this bad boy. See if I can't get them both put on. Get both pieces sanded, and we'll put them on, and then we can see what it looks like. You stick around with us. We'll keep sanding. You can watch me work on this fine day, like we do every day. Now, filler off the front of the tape so I can see what's. See my tape. Don't want to sand the tape right off the edge, but I do want to see where I'm going to. You see the tape edge right there? What I've done is I've taped both edges to give me a nice line. So the only way I'm going to get a poopy line is if I made a bad tape line. And I'm hoping that I did a good tape line. Hoping. So the tape is almost like guide coat for sanding filler. It's a guide to let me know where it needs to be. And you can see the tape line. Let's start taking some of it off, just so we can see what's going on. Down in here, you can see, it doesn't sound real good, but it must be right on the metal. Sand it right to the tape. You have to admit, how would you know where to sand to if you did not, do something like that? use an 80 grit, and the reason being is I don't want to be too vicious on it. I just want to take what's needed. Paying attention to the tape line is all I'm doing. I'm going to switch sides on you. Better to have on too much than not enough, that's for sure. Especially doing this. Now we're going to have to take the edges off. Gotta be gentle on that one. Hoping that's it. I'm going to take the tape off the front of the tape so I can see the edge, like I did the last time, all the way along. And you're going to get to see Jolene again today. She's going to have to hold the fender skirt on for me. Yay, Jolene, my queen. See the edge of the tape? Metal. It's called the ocean floor. As far as you can go. Unless you're interested in making a hole. Alright, you can see, if you want to take, you can see your camera, you can see all on that edge where that's got to come off to, right up around here. Let's do it. I'm going to grab a block just for the straightness of the bottom. Round part I just like my hand. Don't get too much off. If we don't just take off whatever's needed. See if I can. Gotta get down. Hey, look at that! I put some light on the subject. And if I don't sand it far enough, the gap will be too small, obviously. I'd rather have the gap too small than too big though, because if it's too big, you know what that means? Back to putting more on. Yeah, I'm going to go underneath there, take off the excess. Make it look good. Alrighty, I'm going to call that good for now. Let's go to the fender skirt. Hello, Fina. You're such a great dog. Now, let's take off the front like we always do. Coarser, so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. Thank you, sweetheart. Jolene's moving the light in for me. She's putting the light in on the subject. Stay on there, tape. Let's have that tape stay on there. Alrighty. See the edge of the tape all the way around I can. Put it right here. Hey, don't want that to fall. Let's start taking it. Got a lot of tape down here at the end, or a lot of filler out the end here. Just get it, sand it off. Just gotta see my line, that's all. Alrighty. like to have that on a bench. If I get a bench over there, I can put that on. Be nice to set it on something I could. Let's do this. It's on the bottom. Get a little fill table, bring this over. I'm just going to set that up here. And hopefully I can see what's going on. Keep your fingers crossed, people. Keep your fingers crossed. Because you know what happens if it does not fit. You sort of have to like do it again. And on this sort of stuff, it can be again and again and again and again until you get it right. Depends on and it also depends on where you're going with it too, also, obviously. Yeah. It's like this morning, we come out. I was hoping that we were going to be finished up with the building today. This is, I want to tell it as polite as possible, but it's just like this fender skirt. If you care, you'll do a good job on it if you care. If you don't care, you probably won't do that great of a job. So when I asked the young fella this morning, I said, I'm not sure if I like that so much. He looked at me and goes, I don't care. So I told him to fuck home. Go home. What? If you don't care, go home, right? Go home. If you don't care, go home. Basically. And I suggest to you, if you hire someone on to do something for you, and they don't care, send them home. I don't care to pay them. I don't know how funny that is, but something to think about, because I can guarantee you one thing: if that person was in the other shoes and he had hired someone on that didn't care, he'd probably want to send him home too. So where I care, I'm going to try to make the gap as best I can. Trying to smooth it off the best I can. Still got our line going. Yeah. So you can guess, the building's not done. Yeah, you can guess. Pardon my licorice. Pardon my licorice. I'm hoping this does it. Delicate stuff. And the reason I'm saying it's delicate is because I don't want to do it again, but let's face it, if the gap is not right, I can't continue on. If the gap is not right. So I guess the moral of the story is, if you don't care, you shouldn't mind if someone don't care to have you around. Basically, that's the moral of the story. If you don't care, you shouldn't mind if someone don't care if they have you around. So in the end, that person that I told to go home shouldn't mind that I told him to go home because he didn't care, so I don't care to have him around. So it's tit for tat, I would call that. Tit for tat, but you know how it goes. I will be the bad person because I did not accept. But you know what? I'll tell you just like he told me, I don't care. I laughed. Made myself laugh this morning, I did. Made myself laugh this morning. I don't care if you work here. Hard case anyway, hard case. But that's who Chad Hiltz is. Trying to take out any little picks I can. Now, I'm almost to the point of try-on time. Let's pull the tape off of this. Still got to primer this yet, and what I'm saying is primers it to cover up the pull the tape off of this. I'm hoping that we have a fairly decent gap. Hoping, keep your fingers crossed. I can see I got a little filler on top of this right here. Now, if the gap is a little too thin, I'll be happy. If the gap is a little too wide, then that's where I'm not going to be happy. And the reason being is I'll have to put more on to make the gap narrow. And that means taking the fender skirt off and doing a bunch of, figuring, a bunch of sanding, retape it. Whole bunch of things of what it means. I'm trying to make this stuff a one-shot deal, but It probably isn't. Don't round the edges off, Hiltz. Don't round the edges off. Alrighty. Now, I might be able to put it on myself. Did you want to help or?
Hold it.
Okay, Jolene's going to hold it and film at the same time. My little queen is so good at what she does. Do you care? Oh yeah. All right, let's just, I got to get another bowl here. She cares. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. If you don't care, you're in the wrong line of work. And you would never tell anybody that you're working for that you don't care, I wouldn't think. Obviously, not very bright. All right, I need another. I'm going to grab another bolt. Grab another 3 bolts actually, just so I think, well, we rock guarded underneath there, and the little rock guard gets on the nut, and then it's just hard to screw on. But I did notice that Aiden must have tried to cover them up and tried not to get rock guard on him. God bless his soul. I would have sprayed him with rock guard. But he obviously cared. Alrighty. Now we're going to put this fender skirt on. I've got a wrench, got 2 wrenches. I'm going to keep your fingers crossed, people. Keep your fingers crossed. This is the stuff that, you know, that matters. Now, I'm just not seeing where I'm going up in the hole here yet. I got it now. Alrighty. Probably wished I would have showed you the gap before I started, and then you would know what I'm up against. But if you're, you know, watching, you probably know a little bit about this kind of work. And when you have door gaps and fender skirts and that sort of stuff, it's a trying thing sometimes, because you can go back over it more than once and have issues. I'm trying to speed it up by, got a hold of that?
Yep.
Good. You're my queen, Jolene. Now, this is not going to be the most graceful car to take your fender skirts off and on, but we are not looking for grace. We are looking for fender skirts to fit. Now, I'm going to jump out of there. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Now, that's not even on there very tight, but you can see how that gap is super alidocious. That is really nice, I figure, for taking it off and putting it back on. The gap was not that nice when I first started, was it, baby? No, nowhere near that. But taking the tape and I ran tape on this side, obviously. I ran tape on this side, and I made my gap with the tape what I wanted. So when I put filler on, I knew how far to go. So now I really have something there that is worth primer. I'm going to bolt it up a little tighter, and I might have to run some sandpaper in there. But what I'm going to do is I'll bolt it on tight. I'll do the tape thing again, and then I'll sand it off to the tape. There'll be no filler on the tape. So what I'm going to do is I'll tighten it up. I'll run the tape on the fender part, because that's nice. It all looks good. And then I'll take and run the tape on the fender skirt again and make that gap that I want. Then I'll take the fender skirt off, and then I'll sand what access I need off to make the gap really nice. So you can take that trick if you want, or you can throw it away if you want. You can do whatever you want. But make sure, for one thing, if you don't care, you cannot expect anybody else to care. Just as simple as that. All right, everybody, if you like what's going on, throw a like in. If you care, throw a share in. And if you want to, get someone to subscribe. And all we're doing is building cars and having fun. And when I do my job, I care.